Good afternoon. Thank you for attending. I'm speaking to Gerard Thompson.
Hello.
I'm doing a thing for the Bay Island Community Services on Seniors Week. Thank you. What brought you to the islands and when did that occur?
Well, my wife Glenda and I came to the islands back in 2009 after many years in Port Macquarie, New South Wales, where I'd owned my own newspapers since 1976. And when we came here, we were a little bit shocked at what the reaction was to the islands and what was happening on the islands at that time. Because people used to have to pay to go inter-island in those days, there was hardly any interaction between any of the islands. Nobody knew anybody. And the publications that did try to operate back in those days were just full of letters to the editor, which people just complained all the time. There was no strategic, proper information being passed on. And after seeing what was going on, we lived here for about 2 years before I decided that I'd do something about it. So that's when I came up with producing the Friendly Bay Islander. And it wasn't my idea to call it the Friendly Bay Islander. I was just going to call it the Bay Islander, but there was a gentleman on the islands at the time told me about the low self-esteem that existed here then, and there was, and it wasn't safe to go down to into the shopping centre and to Super IGA or whatever. There were always incidents and whatever, so there were issues and there were problems back then. But I figured that if we produced a publication that was in full colour, glossy, reported on good stories that were positive stories about the islands, it might help to change the perception of the islands over a period of time. And so that's how it started.
Did you buy a house or build your own when you came here?
No, we rented when we came, and we actually didn't build anything until just recently, and mainly because we bought some land, but I got so busy in developing the magazine, I just didn't have time. But we have since built a home, and we've got a couple of others projects that we're doing at the moment, one of which is going to be a secure car parking area for people parking down near the Russell Island Ferry. So I've got a business starting up, another one called Russell Island Secure Parking. So it's another little endeavour.
So what made you get involved in working for the community?
Well, that was a natural evolution because part of the reason for producing a publication, and one, we knew how to do it. I knew how to do it because we've been doing it for so long, and I've now been a journalist as of next year for 60 years, which is a bit of a milestone really, and because I tend to think I'm still a bit young, but anyway. So in establishing it, that comes naturally because people want to know what's happening, what events are happening, but what they also wanted to know were the things that affected the islands as well. Back then, you used to have to pay to travel inter-island, so nobody travelled inter-island, even though it only cost $2. They just wouldn't depart with the money back then. And I knew at that time, the only way you could ever change things is to change the demographics of the islands. And given that prices for property were so low and rents were so low, there was a demographic here that wasn't the best, and it attracted people who wanted to hide basically, but also brought about some troubling aspects of life concerning some substances that we didn't want to really see on these islands. But we realised that one of the ways to do that was to work in with your local authorities, local, state and federal. That's why we established good relationships with our elected representatives. We allowed them to have a voice. We found out what was happening for the islands and discovered nothing was. And it wasn't until almost at the same time another strategic happening occurred. Excuse me. Karen Williams got elected as mayor of the council, and Mark Edwards became our local member. And had they not got into their positions, the demographics of these islands wouldn't have changed. But we used the magazine, and by calling it the Friendlier Bay Islander, and having a good quality product that was glossy, that today we now believe is the highest standard regional publication anywhere in Australia. And also at the same time, while other publications are notoriously closing and whatever, thinking there's no room for printed material, is not correct. It's just that they've never been run properly. And to this day, we started out with 16 pages when we started. We're now putting out 84 pages a month, which is extraordinary for a publication of this size and for a demographic that we've got. And it's thanks to the island business community and others who've supported what we've done, that we've reached the level that we have today. But what we realised that we had to do was to help change the demographic. And one of the things that was integral to that was getting the state government of the day providing the TransLink system for passenger ferries and giving us free travel inter-island, which changed everything.
Have you enjoyed living here over the years?
Yeah, look, the islands are... That was the other observation we made. My wife and I have travelled a bit, and we've been to Europe and whatever, and these islands are extremely unique. Whilst they had a very poor reputation, it was undeserved, because really they're a jewel in the crown, if you really think about it. You've got North Stradbroke Island, which is regarded in fairly high terms, but the islands behind them weren't. And that was very unfair and not right. And we believe by presenting a positive image of the islands, we could help change that. And so that's basically what happened. And we have helped change the demographic of the islands, but it could never have been possible without the support that we got eventually, and deservedly, our fair share of money that people have paid in their rates and taxes over the years, we never got a just return. And if it weren't for a discovery that Councillor Edwards made just 2 or 3 years ago, where he discovered that had it not been for these islands, Redland City Council would not be in this position it was today, except what they did back then was to use the money they engendered after it was handed over to them in around about 1972 by the state government. They used the money from investment rates that people were paying for their blocks on the islands to pay for loans that did up the roads on the mainland, but did nothing here. And I mean, just did nothing for a generation or more. Fortunately, that is changing now, and I know a lot of people at council and everywhere were shocked when Councillor Edwards came up with his evidence that proved without a doubt that it was the islands that actually saved the Redland City Council, not the other way around. And we had councillors holding up signs saying, "Make the islands pay," where the islands were paying all the way along, more than their fair share.
Any memorable events that have occurred that stick out in your mind?
Well, I've sort of partly touched on some of them, but from a point of view of us, was when we started the magazine in 2011. We've just recently celebrated, in this current edition of the October 2022 edition, is our 11th anniversary edition. But the things that was strategic for the islands in particular was, one, the deal with TransLink that gave us the free inter-island travel. The other was the Green Seal Roads program, which was vital to these islands. As you all know, and many know, a lot of streets there was only the main roads that were really sealed, but this Green Seal program is now extensively sealed most of the roads on most of the islands, with just Russell Island still got about 40% to go. They were extremely significant for the islands. And it's also the other thing, particularly in recent times after the COVID thing, it's brought a whole new demographic to the islands, people are spending more on their houses, better homes are being produced, people are getting involved with the arts, and the arts community here on these islands are fantastic, and socially they've done a hell of a lot, and I think that is a credit to the islands, and a lot of people are now realising that these islands are very special. And one observation I made right back at day one is that after being along the coast of the Mediterranean, if these islands were off the coast of the Mediterranean, instead of paying $15 to $20 to $25 to $50,000 a block, you'd have been paying $1 million a block of land. And when you look at the islands where we are located, we're 1 hour from the capital city of Queensland, and we're one hour from Australia's most significant playground, the Gold Coast. Yet we're sitting in these islands whereby land and property is at such a low price even today, even though it has increased markedly of late. But that is, for those of us still here, is still an opportunity. And and I think the opportunities for the future are just getting better as each day goes by.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been lovely meeting you.
Thank you.